The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, Season 2, Episode 4, The Book of Carol. Still an excessively long name for, I don't know why the name is like that, and I don't know how long they can really go with this name. Because now it's almost not even like a separate added story of Carol, now it's all merged together. And it's going to be a little strange to have that subtitle on there. I don't know what they're going to do, but the whole thing is weird now because this was supposed to be a Daryl and Carol show to begin with. And I don't think they would have titled the show Daryl Dixon if it was going to be Carol and Daryl. But because now Melissa McBride wants to come into season 2 now it's just called Daryl Dixon. And now I don't think they know what to do. And I don't know an easy solution. I will say that, but it is a very excessively ridiculous long name. And I will say that every time. So, episode 4, Carol is about to be killed next to all of Janae's people. That is what we got teased at the end of the last episode and for the teaser this week. So, magically, Carol just manages to survive. So, Janae's people just get mowed down by their guns, and then they immediately start to inject them with the serum stuff that the doctor has been, infusing with the walkers to make super walkers, and Janae wants to attack the nest, which I'm all for. Go after the nest. I don't care about the nest. Then she brings Kadron out onto a car for some reason. She literally just drags him out onto a car. I don't know if she plans on killing him with the super walkers and then sending the super walkers to the nest, but while Carol's there laying on the ground and the super walkers are getting brought to life, Kadron's just dragged out onto a car, kind of tied up, and this begins the whole beginning here is really silly because Carol basically just lives, and I don't really see a reason as to why she just manages to get down and not get hit, while everybody else around her that she's in the same group of people with dies. So she is injected with the stuff for a moment, but then she pulls it out of her neck before it really does anything to her. So she pulls it out, and then she just gets up and runs to the vehicle that was pulled up with Kadron. So he's still tied up to the truck, and Carol drives off with the truck while all the super walkers are now chasing her. She is driving towards the nest. So it's basically the beginning of Janae's attack. Meanwhile, Carol is also escaping, kind of leading the walkers there. So I think the whole beginning is really silly. I don't like it at all. I think it's kind of dumb. But we all know that she was going to live. I mean, we know that, obviously. I still don't really understand Kadron's role in this season. He's just been Janae's prisoner. So I think we will see more of him later in the last few episodes here. But I mean, so far his role has not been significant at all. But the Super Walker stuff, I love that stuff. I think that shit's cool, and I'm super happy to see some Walker action and just seeing them a little different than normal. I'm super happy we're doing this. So Carol gets to the nest, and she basically just waits for Janae's people to blow up the gate, and she just drives on in as the walkers are running towards her. You can see Kadron still strapped on there to the little vehicle there. They drive in, she lets Kadron out, and he kind of goes off on his own and starts to fight the super walkers, and then Carol goes off to find Daryl. So now the whole battle has begun. This is like Janae's launch of all the super walkers. They start to kill people and whatnot. I think it's cool. I like seeing the super walker stuff. I don't mind it at all. I think it's awesome. So Carol's inside now. She's very close to Daryl. She's about to find him. But we still do have a situation going on in the nest itself, and that is with Isabelle and Laurent. And man, Laurent, I liked him a lot at the end of season 1. And my opinion has completely changed on this guy. And it sucks. It does suck. But he is easily the most dislikable person now on this show. So Isabelle's being interviewed. He just wants to know where the boy is. He wants to know where Laurent is. And as they are interrogating Isabelle, one of the men come in and say that they're under attack. And as Isabelle hears that, she realizes, okay, this is my opportunity. She has this little thing from the shower that she can try to attack Laurent with. She tries to attack Laurent. She, slashes his face a little bit. And then he gets super mad. So Laurent just gets all pissed off. And he runs back at Isabelle with a knife. And he just stabs Isabelle right in the stomach or whatever, in the chest area. And she falls to the floor. And now it's like, oh shit, what is going on? So Isabelle is now in danger. She's bleeding out on the floor. Meanwhile, Laurent is running off to figure out what's going on with Janae. So Carol's still running around, fighting off super walkers, trying to find Daryl amongst all the chaos, also killing other people that are in Janae's, group. And Isabelle actually does manage to get up from the floor, and she's like bleeding out as she's walking across her path there, and she's kind of seeing the chaos unfold around her. And then she's about to be attacked by a super walker, and of course, the person that saves Isabelle is Carol. So we get to have a scene with Carol and Isabelle here for the first time, and we are about to find out that this may be the only time we see Carol and Isabelle on screen together. So they kind of connect, and they kind of realize that like they're looking for the same person, and we get the idea that Isabelle tells Carol where Daryl is. She tells Isabelle that I'm an American, I'm looking for Daryl, I'm looking for my friend. And then we cut to the scene of Daryl in his prison cell. There's this kid that like backs into his cell that was running away from the super walkers, and probably my favorite scene of the episode. This kid is backing into the cell from Daryl, and it's like gated off on the other side. So he kind of backs up, and he's backing up away from the walker, and then he realizes, oh shit, Daryl's in here as well. And he turns around. We get this shot of Daryl. He just lifts his hand up, and he's got his arm chained. He's like, let me out of here. Let me out of here. And then the next scene is Daryl going crazy. He's been let out. They let Daryl out to go fight off the walkers. So the kid did let him out. He goes off, fights a bunch of walkers. Obviously, he's going to deal with them pretty easily, even though I'm surprised that we're not seeing a bigger fight against these walkers. Like, I don't expect our characters to die from the walkers just like that, because this is the Daryl show. He's not just going to die. I get it. He's going to kill a bunch of walkers pretty easily. It's what they do. But these are like the super advanced, strong, fast, crazy walkers, right? And they're just kind of, they are crazy. It's a little bit more action. I suppose it's a little more action-packed. But they're still killing them off. They're getting away from them. And it's like, well, so much for the super walkers. But as he takes out the walkers in the room, the last person standing there is Carol. So we get the reunion, Carol and Daryl. I love this reunion. I think it was great. This is our first time seeing them together on screen together since the main series ended, like a few years ago now. It's good to see these two actors back together again, filming on this show. I really love it. I think it's amazing. But the whole Carol factor now is, I feel like, messing up the entire format of the show that we got in season 1. Because the next stuff we get is Isabelle. So she is bleeding out and she's slowly dying. And she, they get back to Isabelle, and she looks much worse than she did a moment ago when Carol left her. She is dying, and Isabelle does die. So she's bleeding out, and she dies by, at least she got to see Daryl one more time, but she dies by Daryl, and now it is literally the Carol and Daryl show. And we are just, we killed Sylvie last week. We're just killing, it's like we're killing off all these main characters, these new main characters that we got last season. And we're just killing them off now because, oh shit, Carol's back. We got to get rid of all these other people we brought in because, oh man, it's the Carol and Daryl show now. And I don't like that. I really don't. Now, obviously, Laurent's still out there. I don't think Falou is really gonna be that big of a factor into the show, but he's still out there with Laurent. He's run off. But Laurent really is like the only one left now of the people he got close to in France. And it's like, okay, I don't know if Laurent is going to die or not. I don't know what's going to happen with this kid, if I'm being honest. I honestly did expect, maybe until him and Isabelle got close, that Isabelle would actually make it at least a lot further in this show and, maybe make it back to America with Laurent. But hey, they killed her off. So now we just got Laurent left with Falou out there. And it is literally the Daryl and Carol show now. So I think that's really messing up the whole format a little bit here. Is like, now we have to, we got this other big star of the Walking Dead universe back, and I think a lot of the focus is going to shift towards Carol, which I am fine with. I really like Carol. I'm glad she's back, but it does suck to see, I did like Isabelle as a character, and it does suck to see these characters just kind of start to get killed off. It's like, oh shit, okay. So they run off. They manage to get out as the chaos is unfolding, and Daryl's kind of phased right now. He's just kind of like in a haze, like he doesn't really know what to think. He knows where Laurent is, so he runs off with Carol, like, let's go, we got to get there. Janae does make her way into the nest, and she captures Losang and his little friend. So those two are captured, and they basically take control of the nest. So Janae is now in charge, and I'm so glad. I'm like, holy shit, we're about to be done with the nest. Till later, but I feel like we're about to be done with the nest stuff. It's over. We're finally done. But whatever. We'll get to it later. It's a little annoying to me. So Daryl's freaking out because Laurent is actually not at the cave anymore, where Falou and him were at the cave last episode. They seemingly have left. So they've left and run off to another location to, I guess, get away more. So Daryl's freaking out, and Carol's like, okay, I'll help you. I'll find him. Let's go find him. So they go off on this path to go find Laurent and Falou. Carol kind of tells the whole story to Daryl of how she got there. And then they start speaking French. We get the little bickering between these characters again. I think it's awesome. I love seeing Carol and Daryl on screen again together again. I really love it. It just sucks that now we've killed off Isabelle. It's almost like a replacement. We're just like replacing, throwing Carol in there now and getting rid of this other character that we were getting close with Daryl. I don't like that. I do not like that. Now, Carol does bring up Cadrin because Cadrin is still a character in play in this show. And she mentions how she came in with Cadrin, and that's how she was able to find him. And she let him go, and he said, because Cadrin told Carol to let Daryl know that he did it for the boy. Seemingly like to save Daryl, find Daryl, all that stuff. He cares. He doesn't want to kill the boy. He doesn't want to kill Laurent. And that's what he did in last season, where he didn't kill Daryl in the group because he didn't want to hurt the kid. So Cadrin is still out there somewhere, and I think he's going to become an ally going forward. I hope we can keep some allies going forward in this show, because we're killing them off, and there's not really many around right now that were like original to this show. So we did get a scene with Janae keeping Losang and his friend captured in the same area where they kept Daryl. So now they're kind of prisoner in their own nest. Janae is in charge. She's after Daryl, Carol, Laurent. She wants to find the kid. So there's another thing in this episode that really, it's probably the thing I hated the most in this episode. So if you remember last season, Carol had this interaction. She did, come on the radio with Daryl when we had the flashbacks with Daryl when he was still in Maine, and he was connecting with Carol over the radio. And she was like, it was going in and out. And she said something like, someone came back, something came back. I suppose she never really said someone came back, but Daryl assumed that someone had come home, right? I'm like, okay, well, it's pretty clear to me, like, after the ones who live with Rick Grimes coming back with Michonne and everyone, they're back. They're back home. I don't know when the timelines happened, so maybe Rick came back home when Carol was gone. That seems to be the case at this point. But Rick did come back home, but I guess Carol doesn't know that Rick came back, because instead of it being someone that came back that she was trying to tell Daryl, she was trying to tell Daryl that her PTSD of losing Sophia and the other people in her life and the other kids that she's had around her that have died, particularly Sophia, it's gotten really quiet at the Commonwealth, and now she's getting her PTSD is coming back. And I guess that kind of makes sense if your world kind of slows down a little bit. You found security and peace at the Commonwealth finally, and you start to really overthink things. I get it, but it's like, what are we doing, man? Why would you put this teaser? You could have just, you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to do that. Because it's particularly when you have Rick Grimes come back, like, right after you tease us like that. Like, oh, man. I know, I do think they're going to get back home, at least. I do think they're going to get back home and reunite with Rick. I do think they're going to manage that somehow. But, man, I am upset that that wasn't the case. But I suppose it will create a bigger surprise for when Daryl gets home and Rick is there. I suppose if they want to do that scene now, I think it'll be bigger and more emotional. So I guess in that sense, they did save us for that great emotional scene. If they try to give it to us, which I hope they give it to us. But I am kind of upset that they did this little tease and really it's just her own PTSD that came back. It wasn't anybody. I theorized maybe Morgan a while ago, maybe Rick. And it's nobody. Nobody came back. It was just Carol's own memories. So as they're trying to find Laurent and Falou, they run across this old couple in this house where basically they realize and they learn that Laurent and Falou stayed with this old couple, or this pair of old folk who are there living. They stayed there for a few days, and they think Carol is Isabelle. So when Carol comes there with Daryl, they already heard about Isabelle and Daryl from Laurent. So they think Carol is Isabelle now. So she's kind of like almost pretending to be Isabelle. She's just kind of going along with it. They do tell Daryl that they left in a car. And as he tells them that the next day, they stay for the night. They come the next day, and Daryl is looking for a car. This old man, has a bunch of old cars that they need to repair. They find one with the least issues, and they go to try and repair it. So we do get a scene with the old lady there with Carol, and they're just kind of cooking in the kitchen. And this is kind of where Carol learns that Isabelle and Daryl were kind of falling in love with each other, because Laurent mentioned it to her, and Laurent was seeing the connection between Isabelle and Daryl. So this is kind of where Carol realizes that, like, oh shit, Daryl was really caring for this woman that just died, and that's kind of where she learns it. So they go on a mission to go find some parts from some random old man in this like village of theirs. They get the parts. Carol, on the other hand, back at the house, as she's going towards this barn where the old lady there is going to walk in and go get some parts and whatnot that they need, Carol once again gets another PTSD like flash of some Sophia stuff. So I guess every time Carol just sees some barn doors in this show, she's going to like lose her shit. So I guess that's something we do now. I mean, it is what it is. It's nothing different than the same thing that happened back when she was in America with Ash. So she's just getting these PTSD moments now. And I guess Daryl did see that, so he started to see her PTSD of Sophia coming back. And I guess it is interesting to be touching on this old story from, the first seasons of Walking Dead. But I mean, maybe don't add another scene of Carol looking at another barn door next week. We've had 2 of them. We've had enough. So as they're, trying to repair this car, Daryl and Carol end up hiding into the car as one of the military Janae's people drive up, and it looks like they have like this exchange where they give goods to Janae's people. They kind of control the area, and then they drive off. So they almost get seen by Janae's people, but they do not. And then they kind of go about their day. Daryl has like another emotional conversation with Carol at the end of the night, and she's realizing that Daryl got really close with a lot of these people, and Daryl's even surprised. It wasn't my intention to get close to a lot of people here, but I did get close to some people, and that's kind of the realization. And she did have like a thing from Judith there as well for Daryl to kind of look at. So he asked how Judith is, and so it's this big tear between Daryl and his old world and his his other life, and now his like new kind of family he has here at France. Although if he sticks around any longer, they'll all be dead anyways, and he could just go back home, because I guess they're all just dying. So the next day, Carol and Daryl, they get invited to one last little dinner, and they're all happy and whatnot. And then the vehicle starts to drive back up. So the vehicle that left the day before, there's multiple of them now coming and driving up to the house. And as they turn around from looking in the window, the old man is pointing his gun at Daryl and Carol. So he has turned them in, and he's choosing the winning side. So I'm assuming when they met the day earlier, when the vehicle came earlier, he kind of made a deal that like, okay, they're here, and they'll come back the next day and they'll come get them. So he called them there. He told them to come here. The old lady did not know, so she's surprised as well that he called them, and he's turning on Daryl and Carol. Although she does kind of talk down her husband. It's not really her husband, but they're kind of like a couple. She talks him down, puts the gun down, and Daryl and Carol run off to go hide and try to escape. And then Madame Janae walks in. So she is actually there herself, and she is there to figure out where the hell are these people. So she comes in, she sits down, eats some of their food a little bit. She's like, okay, where are they? As they're sitting there, she realizes that these people, they're not going to help her. They kind of start to backtrack, and even the old man's like, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to start lying with my wife here. So they start lying to her. She realizes and knows that they're lying, and she's just about to kill them. And then Carol runs in and kills all of her men in the room, or not all of her men, but most of her men that were about to kill them. And then she runs inside. So now they're running after Carol. So Carol is running away from Janae. Janae catches up, and now she's at a standoff with Janae and Carol. Carol and Janae are now at a standoff in the doorway here. So Janae has one person with like the poison, whatever dart, the genetics dart for the walkers, and then there's another one with a normal gun. They're in a standoff, And she kind of tells her story to Carol one more time that, I watched my love die behind the glass and whatnot. And what we are realizing here is we're getting one last big scene with Janae. So Daryl runs in, kills the rest of Janae's people. Now it's a big standoff. She's got both of her guns pointed at Carol and Daryl. She's lost. So Carol shoots the Walker experiment dart at her, and she gets it injected into her back. So I'm glad Carol ripped it out, because seeing what this does to someone is pretty wild. So we've seen what it does to the walkers, and I mean, even last season, this did blow up some walkers because it couldn't handle it. But Janae gets this thing injected into her back. Now, the transformation looks quite similar to what we did with the walkers, but she's alive, she's living, and she's blowing up and whatever, hemorrhaging inside. She's dying instantly. Her eyes go black. She's got the veins and the blood going all over, and it's just a gory death for Janae. So Janae is dead, and I'm kind of upset, because this is kind of an interesting villain to me. I thought she was pretty good, and I wish she would have lasted longer in this show. I wish she was going to remain the main villain of this show, but instead they are making that the Nest, and we will get to that. But Janae is gone. She died a very, very gruesome and brutal death from her own experiments from the doctor. So Janae is dead. And also, the old lady managed to catch a bullet in the crossfire of all the fighting. So she dies as well, and they go ahead and bury her. So we got one last scene with Daryl and Carol, and she kind of realizes, and she tells Daryl that you loved her. She knows that Daryl loved her, and he doesn't really respond, but you get that look that he cared for Isabelle, and they drive off. So they're off to go find Laurent, and that's kind of it for Daryl this episode. Then we do get, unfortunately, one last scene with the Nest in Lasang. So Janae's remaining people, her remaining generals and the doctor, come to Lasang and his little partner, and they're like, okay, well, Janae is dead, and we don't like how the Nest does things, and we don't like how Janae did things. So what are we supposed to do here? I don't really know what the plan is, but Lasang does hear about Janae's death, and it's like, oh shit. Well, if Janae just died trying to find Laurent, that means Laurent really is the savior. And because she died, that means, Laurent is special, and God didn't want Laurent to die. He's going on about his bullshit. So Lasang is let free by this lady here, and he's basically let free, and now he's kind of merging, I guess, the Nest and his people in the Nest and Janae's people, and they're all kind of merging together, and now it's becoming this whole, the Nest is the main enemy, Lasang is the main villain and enemy now of the Daryl Dixon series. That's the end of the episode, and I'm upset about that. I do not like the way the villain turn happened. I really wanted to go the opposite way. I did not want Lasang and the Nest to become the villain. Last week I predicted that the Nest stuff would end and we would continue with Janae. Well, the opposite happened. I do not like the Nest stuff. I do not like the whole story of Laurent being the savior, and they're all religious, and he's gonna save the world because he's special and all. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of Lasang. I'm tired of the Nest, and I just don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, I guess it's intriguing in a way. It's interesting, but I'm getting tired of it very quickly. And yeah, so we'll see where it goes. I still hope they wrap this Nest stuff up this season at least, because I know there's still going to be in France or in Spain in season 3. I hope they change it up, because I do not want to see any more of Lasang. I'm tired of it. Do something new. You brought Carol back in. Just go do something new. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but very big episode. Even though I thought it was a pretty decent episode, there are quite a few things in here that happened that I did not like. I don't like that Isabelle died. I really don't like that. I did like her character. I don't like that Janae died, actually. And I mean, I know a lot of people will be happy to see her die, and of course I want her to go at some point, but I wanted Janae to become the main villain of the show. I wanted her to become the main villain, and that's it. I wanted the Nest stuff to go, and it didn't happen. So I didn't like that. But overall, though, it was a pretty good episode. And the one little bit of information from Carol that her PTSD is what came back and not a person, I didn't like that either. So amongst the things I didn't like, I actually was still intrigued in the episode. I was still interested. And we'll see what happens. Laurent's still out there. We got to go find him. Cadron is still a character. And we're going to see that one lady from last season that was with... I forgot his name right now. Isabelle's old boyfriend, that lady that was with him. We're actually going to see her again. She was in the teaser. So we'll see her again next episode, or at least within the next 2 episodes. And we're going to connect to that. But yeah, I mean, I really hope the Nest stuff wraps up soon. I don't need to see any more of it. And we'll see where it goes. But Carol and Daryl have officially reunited. And maybe we'll see what happens to Ash next week.